My name is Sydney Bilodeau, and I will be presenting a book talk about social justice in American Indian literature. The lived experiences of the many nations of American Indians have been devastating for centuries. How can we possibly grasp the suffering that has been largely ignored or misunderstood? How can we help in the fight for social justice? The answer is literature. Native nations' histories are ripe with outside forces stripping them of their culture, their land, their language, and their stories. Many modern indigenous stories grapple with reconnecting to those pieces of themselves that were almost wiped out or missing. A unique style element of several of the native stories I will be recommending today is how they are often not narrated in one voice, but many. Using literature for social justice is only as effective as the effort we put in. I recommend the following methodology for using Indian American novels for social justice and cultural competency efforts in a school or library setting. Look for common ground through the realization of shared experiences. Sit through the uncomfortable parts in order to fully understand the whole. Choose authentic stories by own voices authors. Facilitate thoughtful discussions about it afterwards. The following books are recommended as outstanding young adult literature because they are written by own voice authors, provide authentic representation throughout their novels, and handle difficult topics and themes in both sensitive and realistic ways. Man-Made Monsters by Andrea L. Rogers. This gripping novel is a must-read. Masterfully written to help readers grapple with the horrors endured by the Cherokee Nation, this novel is a compilation of many short stories sharing the individual experiences of members of one Cherokee family, beginning on the Trail of Tears in the 1830s and exposing each era of cruelty toward the Cherokee Nation all the way into an imagined future. Authentic Cherokee history is intertwined subtly with chilling monsters and characters from Cherokee legend and folklore. Each tale is a new voice so captivating it will truly keep you on the edge of your seat until the last page. The individuality of each voice provides ample opportunity for any reader to relate to multiple pieces of an indigenous experience, while also developing extended context to replace pre-existing stereotypes. Amma Wilson, daughter of the original first-generation family matriarch, plays a pivotal role across stories while also beginning the novel with her transformation into a vampire. She witnesses the murder of her brother and mother at the hands of vampires and has to wonder at the fate of her infant sister while enduring an incredibly painful physical change on her own. This was all happening in the midst of being driven from her homeland on the Trail of Tears in 1834. Amma shows up as an aunt for many of her kin throughout the novel, some of the most noteworthy being Valhalla King, who needed help to get an alien from her pool to the ocean. In the future, when a viral outbreak turns people into flesh eaters, Amma comes to the aid of Charlotte Henry and helps her connect to a colony of unaffected humans while protecting her from the most dangerous human in her life. The raw honesty of the different voices sharing the continued influence of colonialism on their family line leaves a lasting impact on the reader. The horror thrill makes these stories unforgettable. Saints of the Household by Ari Tyson. This own voices novel is both raw and compelling. The organization of this novel was a beautiful reflection of the Bri tradition of telling stories individually. Each piece of the larger story is told in smaller stories by Jay and through prose by Max. This is reflective of their personalities, the older brother Jay feeling a strong connection to his heritage, while the younger brother Max feels a strong connection to his art. Their family reside in Minnesota with their indigenous mother and white father, both boys bearing a stronger resemblance to their mother. The boys begin their story in the middle of senior year. They are 11 months apart in age, by describing the backlash they are facing for beating up a star athlete boy from school who they caught threatening their cousin Nicole. As they face mandatory school counseling, they struggle to let down their barriers and face hard truths that are a result of their shared trauma. Significant change comes to the family when the secret trauma is revealed and justice is finally served. The brothers grow apart while longing to stay connected as they grapple with a new way of life. Slowly, Max finds healing by portraying his trauma in his art. Jay begins to open up to the school counselor and seeks out his grandfather to reconnect to his Bri heritage. This book has a refreshing honesty to the trauma of abuse without sensationalizing the experience. Through the boys' painful journeys of self-discovery, the novel ends on a beautiful, hopeful note. The Marrow Thieves by Cherie Demeline. This is a captivating dystopian Own Voices novel. Frenchie and his older brother Mitch are on the run from recruiters. Indigenous people are being rounded up by recruiters and sent to residential schools. Past knowledge and trauma associated with residential schools has led to many Indigenous people attempting to flee and avoid capture. Frenchie finds himself alone and ill-equipped to survive in the wild. The landscape is difficult with many water sources poisoned and the climate changed dramatically from pollutions. When Frenchie is on the brink of death, he is found by Mig and his small company of survivors. Mig slowly shares story with the older children to help them understand the history that led to where they are now and why they are trying so hard not to be captured. Frenchie comes of age, and throughout the novel we hear the coming to story from most characters. This is how the company share their origin, identity, and experience with one another. The tales are heartbreaking, but the group finds strength and resilience together. Eventually, another girl joins the company, and Frenchie immediately falls for her. A longing for the past, including the indigenous language, is felt by all the youth in the company. After years on the move in the wilderness and following immense loss to their company, they come across a band of resistors. As Frenchie becomes more self-aware and grasps the stakes in their fight for survival, he develops a fighting spirit for himself and his people. As readers, we experience the repeated offenses of the government against Indigenous nations alongside the newer generations of Indigenous survivors and have to grapple with humans being viewed as nothing more than commodities. Walking in Two Worlds by Wab Kinew. Bugs lives on the res with her parents and brother. Her mother is the chief of their Anishinaabe tribe. They live in a future time where multiple pandemics have changed the world. Governments took over social media, leading to the open-source creation of an augmented reality platform that couldn't be monitored or controlled by governments. Bugs is the leading player in the AR game world and makes good money live streaming her virtual reality exploits in the Floriverse, specifically the spirit world. She discovered a secret power source that allows her to create and maximize her power in the game. She is incredibly self-conscious of her weight in the real world that leads her to struggle with pretty significant anxiety. She feels like her real self is in her virtual world, where she has created a skinnier, more confident version of herself. Fang is forced to leave his home in China to live with his aunt, Lu Mei, on the Biwakbik reservation where Bugs lives. They meet at school, but Bugs struggles to trust Fang because he is a member of Clan Less, a white supremacist male-only clan in the game. Their leader's entire purpose is to take down Bugs. Fang's involvement in VR led to his need to leave home because he belongs to a persecuted indigenous group in China, the Uyghur, that is being forced by the Chinese government to assimilate in ways that mirror the North American approach to indigenous nations in the United States. As Fang and Bugs grow closer within and outside of the spirit world, forces threaten to destroy everything Bugs holds dear. Will she learn to fully accept herself and push through the devastating setbacks in both her worlds? This book is relatable to the modern digital teen and provides excellent context to understand and discuss all that was lost by indigenous nations historically. The inclusion of modern Western racism against China, modern teen vernacular, and an actively persecuted modern indigenous group from another country make many of the themes in this book more accessible to teen readers today. Ancestors Approved, edited by Cynthia Lightech Smith. This book is a compilation of beautiful and unique short stories written by new and seasoned Native writers. All stories revolve around the large Ann Arbor, Michigan annual powwow event. The short stories vary in family types and circumstances, providing a breadth and depth to the intersectionality of the characters portrayed. One story is told from the viewpoint of a res dog helping an adult male sell his shirts at the powwow to help his grandmother afford to keep her house on the reservation back in New Mexico. There is the heavy but touching story of a young man in foster care meeting his biological brother at the powwow event. The raw emotions related to his careful preparation to participate in the dancing event, his unease at feeling outside and other no matter where he goes, and the way dancing helps him find a place he belongs leave a lasting impression on the reader. All the voices weave individualized experiences together into a greater cultural whole to bring healing and belonging to many of the characters portrayed. These stories offer insight and understanding to readers as the intersectionality provides many relatable experiences. The power of literature is limited without exposure. American Indians continue to be one of the most underrepresented minority groups in literature. The CCBC diversity statistics show that only 2.1% of children's books published in the United States in 2023 were about Indigenous people. These book recommendations are for voices that deserve to be heard.